Alright, we are going to solve a bunch of radical equations and power equations. So first one, we have the square root of 3x minus 4 and then plus 3 that's equal to 10. Well, first we will actually minus 3 on both sides because we have to get the square root by itself. Then we see that here we get the square root of 3x minus 4. This is 10 minus 3, which is 7. And what do we do to get rid of the square root? Yes, square both sides, right? Go ahead, square both sides so that this and that will cancel. And we'll just have the inside, which is 3x minus 4 being equal to 7 to the second power is 49. From here, add the 4 on both sides so they cancel. Then we see 3x equals 49 plus 4, that's 53. And then in the end, we can just divide both sides by 3. 53 divided by 3, we cannot reduce that. So actually that's good because we'll just write this down for the answer. 53 over 3. And that's it, right? Now, for the second one, we have 1 over the cube root of x equals negative 5. We don't like this to be on the bottom, so let's go ahead and multiply both sides by the cube root of x. And the reason I want to do that is because this and that will cancel. And we're looking at this as 1 being equal to negative 5 times the cube root of x. Well, here is negative 5 times the cube root. We will divide both sides by negative 5 so that this and that will cancel. And now, let me actually write this down first. The cube root of x is equal to 1 over negative 5. So if you prefer, you can write the negative in the front, and then we have negative 1 over 5 like this. Is this doable when you have the cube root? Yes, remember when you have the cube root, the output is possible to be negative. Therefore, we continue and we raise both sides to the third power. This and that will cancel, and we get the x by itself. We get negative to the third power is still negative. 1 to the third power is still 1 over 5 to the third power. 5 times 5 times 5, we get 125, like this. And with that, yes, we are done, like this, right? So now, let's go ahead and continue. We have a couple more to go. This right here is just the exercise for you guys to do all the radical equations and all the good stuff, right? So the next one, we will have to use a calculator. Let me just write this down right here for you guys. We have x to the 5th power equals 400. Alright, x to the 5th power is equal to 400. How can we get rid of the 5? 5 is in the power. In this case, you can do it two ways. You can do it like this. Raise both sides to the 1 over 5 power. So that this and that will cancel. That's totally okay. And you end up with x equals, this is 400 to the 1 over 5 power. I will remind you guys to enter this on the calculator. You write it down like this. This right here, you will have to put down 400. And then here is the power key. But be sure you open the parentheses with 1 over 5 like this on the calculator, right? So let me just do this for you guys and you will see the answer right here as well. You end up with 400 and then you have the power key right here. This is my power key. And once you hit the power key, you can actually see it jumps to the power and then we'll just enter 1 over 5. So this is actually the easier way to do it. So I get this, right? So the answer that I got, I should say this is approximately because I'm using decimal and the answer does not end. So this is approximately 3.314, right? So it's not 3.14, that's pi. This is 3.314 because it's just 400 raised to the 1 over 5 power. So this right here is it. Well, if you didn't want to take the 1 over 5 power, you can also look at it like this. X to the 5th power equals 400 like this. Well, you can also do the 5th root on both sides. I would not prefer you guys to do this, even though you can see that this and that will still cancel. but it might be hard for you to enter this on your calculator, right? Because if you look at your calculator, you might not see fifth root right away. But if you do, because some calculator it does have that, in that case you can still enter this on the calculator. By either way though, you will still end up with x is approximately 3.314 like this. This is easier in general when you have to enter it on the calculator. And I'll also do that for you guys. So what you do first is this. Put on your microphone. Anyway, so if you have the calculator, you go to math. And then you go down to number 5. You see the little x and then the radical, and you just enter that. You see here, it allows me to enter whatever index I want, which is 5. Then I just have to move inside, and then enter 400 inside, and we are done, right? So just like that. Alright, so that was that, and now we can continue. I still prefer you guys to do it this way. Alright, the equation is, we have 4,000 equals 800 times 1 plus r to the 12th power, like this. This is a power equation, right? Because we're the power, just like that one earlier. First, we have to get rid of the 800. This is 800 times this quantity. Therefore, divide both sides by 800. That way, this and that will cancel. Do the same right here as well. 4,000 divided by 800 is just a 5. And then we end up with 1 plus r raised to the 12th power, right? And perhaps it's easier for us if we write down the part that has the variable first. So I will write it as 1 plus r raised to the 12th power equals this being equal to 5. Now, you see we have this to the 12th power. Again, I'll prefer you guys to just raise both sides to the 1 over 12th power. Raise both sides to the 1 over 12th power. This way, this and that will cancel, and we just get the inside, which is 1 plus r, like this. Well, here, we will have to do the following. This is going to be, we have the 5 and 1 over 12. I'll just enter that on the calculator. So, of course, you have to use your calculator, otherwise you wouldn't know what the answer is. So you have this right here, 1.1435 and so down. So I will just write this as approximately 1.1435. So I will write it as 1.144 like this, right? Well, here is a small detail that you guys have to remember. Whenever you take 1 over an even power, this right here is an even number, right? 1 over an even number power like this. You will have to do the plus minus on both sides. So here, this right here, technically, you also have to do the plus minus. Earlier, we didn't have to because it was 1 over 5. 5 is odd, so you didn't have to. But here, 1 over 12. 12 is even, so you have to do that. And the reason is very similar to if you have x squared equals, let's say, 25. You see, you raise both sides to the 1/2 power, which is the same as taking the square root on both sides. After you do that, be sure you do the plus minus, because again, it's a square root. 2 is even, right? Just like the 12 right here is even, so be sure you put on the plus minus for that. So here, we actually have to solve 2 parts. The first part is this. Well, I will just write it as 1 plus r is approximately equal to positive 1.144. Next, we will have to do the negative version, which is 1. Let me actually solve this first. So I will just minus 1 on both sides first, so that they cancel, and then we end up with r is approximately 0.144. First answer. Okay? First answer. The other one is the minus. I will write it actually. Let me just write it down smaller so that I can fit in both right here. All right. 1 plus r is approximately positive 1.144. minus 1 on both sides, they cancel, and we get r is approximately 0.144. And this right here is it. Secondly, right here, I already as 1 plus r is approximately negative 1.144. Well, here we subtract 1 on both sides, cancel, and then we end up with r is approximately negative minus, right? Negative 1.144 minus 1, we get negative 2.144 like this. And with that, we are done. We have two answers right here, right? So this right here is how you solve this kind of equations. And technically, for this right here, sometimes you might be doing like the interest rate questions. So in that case, you don't have the r being negative. But since, well, I didn't put this as a application question, be sure you know when you take the 1 over an even number power, be sure you have the plus minus, right? So that's D. All right, so now let's go ahead and continue more. Well, we have the next one. Here is E, and I would like to put on E and F side by side. Here's E, which is 14 plus square root of x minus 6 equals 10, right? Actually, let's put on E and F right here. This right here, F, is very similar. We have 14 plus the cube root of x minus 6 equals 10. The only thing different is that this is a square root and this right here is a cube root. Now, to solve this, again, we minus 14 on both sides because I want to get rid of that and then I want to isolate the square root. From here, you will see this right here is just the square root of x minus 6. That's equal to 10 minus 14. We get what? Negative 4. And do we have to continue? The answer to that is no, we don't. All we will have to do is no solution. Why? Because square root of whatever, we cannot end up with a negative number. This right here has no solution. You are done. On the contrary, right here, if you look at this, well, I should say on the other hand, if you look at this, minus 14 on both sides, and then you end up with the cube root of x minus 6 equals 10 minus 14 is negative 4. But when we have a cube root right here, this is definitely okay. Earlier, it was not okay. Here, we raise both sides to the third power. They cancel, and then we end up x minus 6 equals negative 4 to the third power, negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4, we end up with negative 64, like that. Lastly, we just have to add a 6 on both sides. Well, finally, we see that the x is by itself, and we get negative 58, I believe. Yes, just like that. So we do have an answer for F, but we didn't have the answer for E, just because we have a different radical. All right, good news for you guys. 2 more to go, right? So I'm looking at my questions right here. This is G. This is G. This is not a 9. This right here is the G. There we go. All right, we have a parentheses, 3x minus 1 raised to the 2/3 power. And then this is equal to 16. Right? Now, here is the deal. You see that we have the 2/3 power here. So we are going to raise both sides to the 3/2 power. Raise both sides to the 3/2 power so that this and that will cancel. And per our discussion earlier, whenever we raise both sides to something over an even power, we will have to do the plus or minus. Don't forget about that. Again, the reason why is when you have the 2 right here, just think about it as take the square root. When you take the square root, you will have to do the plus minus. So this right here is a quick way to do it, right? I will show you guys a long way to do it after this, if you would like. I will do it, yeah, because I cannot give you feedback. Anyway, this right here, 3x minus 1 equals plus or minus, we have to work this out. So I'll put this down here for you guys. 16 to the 3 half power, 3 over 2 power. First, look at the half power, which is square root, and then you enter the 16 inside first, and then work that out to the third power. Square root of 16 is 4, and then to the third power, we end up with 64, like this. So, 16 to the 3 half power, we end up with 64. But we do have the plus minus, so we have to write it as two equations. First one, 3x minus 1 equals positive 64. Next one, 3x minus 1 equals negative 64. Then we can just do our usual business. Plus 1 on both sides. And then we get the 3x equals 65. Divide both sides by 3. And this is x equals 65 divided by 3. We get 65 over 3. We cannot reduce this, so we'll just write it down like this, right? So 65 over 3. You get decimal, and then the decimal doesn't end, so you leave it as a fraction. Here, add 1 on both sides. They cancel. And you see, this is 3x equals negative 64 plus 1. We get negative 63. Then divide both sides by 3. This and that cancels, and we get x equals negative 63 divided by 3. We end up with negative 21. This is doable. That, we cannot reduce. Then anyway, that's the answer for that. Now, I will convince you guys why we do the plus or minus. So here we go. So it really depends on which way you want to take. In my opinion, this way is shorter. All right, G again. So here, parentheses 3x minus 1 raised to the 2/3 power. This is equal to 16. Well, if you would like, you can write this into the radical form first. So I'm going to focus on this right here, which we have the over 3 power right here. See, this is over 3. Meaning we have the cube root of 3x minus 1. And then the 2 right here means that we do this to the second power. And that's equal to 16. Like this. Now, if you look at this to the second power, to get rid of this power, you can just take the square root on both sides. So that this and that will cancel. Very good. And now you see, we have to put the plus minus. We have discussed this before, right? When you take the square root on both sides, put down the plus or minus. Then you see, this is the cube root of 3x minus 1 equals, well, we have the plus or minus square root of 16 is just a 4, like this. Split, so you get the cube root of 3x minus 1 equals positive 4, and the other one is the one with negative 4. It's longer already, yes, I know, but I will still finish for you guys. Raise both sides to the third power, so they cancel, and we get 3x minus 1 equals 4 to the third power is 64, and then you pretty much have that, so I will just put down the answer for you guys. Here you get x is equal to 65 over 3. Here, you raise both sides to the third power, so that this and that will cancel, and we get 3x minus 1 equals, this is going to be negative 64. And you see, this and that equation, they are the same, so you know the answer will be negative 21. So x equals negative 21, and we have our answers right here. And in either case, be sure you end up with two answers. All right, last one. Here we have h. And the question is, we have 3 times the parentheses 2x minus 1 inside to the third power, and then plus 379, this is equal to 4. And here we go. First, minus 379 on both sides. So that this and that will cancel. And then we see this right here is 3 times the parentheses 2x minus 1 to the third power. Then we see this is 4 minus 379. That's negative 375. Just work that out. 3 times this quantity, so we'll divide both sides by 3. This and that will cancel. And then we get parentheses with 2x minus 1 inside to the third power like this. This is equal to, when you divide, we get negative 125. Well, here we have this to the third power equals the negative number. Do we continue? Yes, we do, and we have to. So go ahead and continue. To do so, we take the cube root on both sides, so that this and that will cancel. And when you do the cube root, you do not need to put on the plus or minus, right? Here, 2x minus 1 equals the cube root of 125 is negative 5. And we can finish this by adding the 1 on both sides. Cancel this out, and then we get 2x equals this and that is negative 4. Lastly, divide both sides by 2. Cancel this out, and we end up x being equal to negative 2 like this. And with that, we are done. That's it. See you guys in the next video.